My name is Len Peters. I'm the chairman of the Grande Riviere Native Tour Guides Association. We manage the Grande Riviere turtle nesting site for the past 15 years in conjunction with the Forestry Division. It's a co-management arrangement. We basically collect data from the site as well as provide the public awareness tours for the general public. This particular site supports the highest density nesting of leatherbacks globally. We see and treat with visitors from over 100 international destinations annually. This is a very critical site to sea turtle management. In addition to that, however, the site runs parallel with the community. So it is the community and the turtles sharing the same space. We have been coexisting for quite a long while, and the community derives 80% of its economic sustenance from the presence of the sea turtles. Over the last week, a bit of media coverage was sent out globally, where it was recorded that based on an activity on the site where an intervention was made to redirect the river eroding into the site, it was reported that upwards of 20,000 turtles were destroyed as a result of that activity. That is a gross misrepresentation of the facts. Grande Riviere Beach is subdivided into 4 nesting zones. Each of the nesting zones supports nesting of sea turtles. Zone 4, the zone under review, supports the highest nesting density under normal conditions. However, since the 3rd of December last year, Zone 4 was totally eroded by the river, and the river started to head west. Our records indicate that from March to June, 419 turtles nested in zone 4, 419. For the same composite period, 9,000 turtles nested throughout the other parts of the zone. The turtles in zone 4, only about 20% of those nests would hatch because that is the hottest zone. It's also the zone heavily saturated. So we were looking at a 20% survival rate. What the river actually did, it eroded the entire zone, and it was heading into the zones that were now stable. It also began to erode into the property line. It actually decimated the fishing area where the fishermen use. So the intervention really was to prevent the river from eroding the remaining 2/3 of the nesting site, which supported the nesting and the economic activities of the community. Zone 4 basically was the zone that the river had to go back to because it was the natural course of the river 1, and it was the zone that represented the least amount of nesting for the season this year. Now, the media reported that 20,000 nests were destroyed. At a 75 nests per clutch ratio, that is only 243 nests. We had 490 nests that we recorded from March to June. Now, if the media recorded 20,000 nests were destroyed, that is 243 nests, and we recorded 400 plus for a 4-month period, turtles hatch every 60 to 75 days. That's a gross exaggeration. Where are those turtles? We recorded from March to June, and in June, they're saying 20,000 nests were lost. Our estimates based on our records is less than 100 nests that will be impacted, and 20% of that actually would be the nests that would be affected. It's only about 100 to 200 hatchlings. You're talking about the beach is outputting close to 2 million eggs. 2 million eggs. 2,000 eggs is 2.5% of that. So we lost about 1.2% of the nesting beach to the redirecting of the river. Now, if you do the mathematics, that is not a composite large amount. The larger nesting area was preserved. We were able to sustain sufficient beach to continue the ecotourism and the public awareness component. And being a high energy beach, the beach will restore the beach area, bringing some sort of normalcy. So for the persons who unfortunately got the wrong representation of what occurred, that is not the case at all. The community basically was appalled by that media representation of the facts, simply because this is a community that is very conservation-minded, and we really felt saddened that that sort of reporting could have been done. This particular site is well managed in conjunction with the Forestry Division, and we believe that that intervention, while may have had a negative human impact based on what people saw, was the only intervention to correct what was taking place. It had to be done now because we are in the rainy season, we are in the hurricane season. If it had been postponed to the end of July, the devastation would have probably not been repairable. So as the person responsible for managing this site, I believe that the intervention was timely, it was necessary, and further intervention needs to be done to correct the other rivers further west of the beach that is causing the similar type of erosion. So I just want the international local community to know that the Grande Riviere site is well managed, the intervention was necessary, and the turtles are safe because of that particular intervention.
Mr. Peters, how often have you observed during the course of your work in this community that the river changes course naturally?
It happens once every 15 to 20 years normally, but with the type of climatic conditions, we have much more rainfall. It's occurring a little more frequently now. Normally the river repairs itself, but this year it came further west than normal. And the last time that happened, the Ministry of Works had to intervene 20 years ago. Anytime it goes that west, you have to put it back on course. It's like a wayward child going on course, you have to redirect it. In this case, we redirected it through the zone that had the less nesting activity. It was blown out of proportion because people saw heavy equipment on the beach and they were saying, it's the highest density beach, how could you have tractors out there? And we understand that. But the intervention was done in an area where normally, for the past 3 years, we had less than 1% of hatchlings being outputted. That zone basically do not produce hatchlings, and this year it was eroded. So it wasn't a case that we were destroying anything. We were trying to preserve the remaining zones and preserve the community where the river was eroding into.
Right? Mr. Peters, what do you consider will be the next step that we go forward?
I think the way forward is that the agencies need to work together. They need to probably coordinate their activities probably a little more tightly so that all the engaged parties will be happy with the way forward. I see this as an opportunity really for us to build on this. This is an activity that probably could have been handled differently. We learned a lot of lessons from this because we didn't even anticipate that type of response. We felt that it was an intervention that would be done and it would blow over quickly. But obviously people are very sensitive about anything done on a nesting site. And basically that's probably where we need to revisit in the future to ensure that there is probably greater collaboration, greater dialogue, greater awareness and education by the public so that people could understand conservation needs to be married with a greater understanding of what has to be done to sustain the particular resource. We empathize with the people who feel very strongly about it, but we believe the way forward is closer collaboration, probably a little more transparency on the part of the agencies and the community, but at the end of the day, turtle conservation will always be a high priority issue in Trinidad. The Ministry of Tourism is doing a tremendous job in promoting the same, and we believe all the agencies working together, the Ministry of Forestry, the Ministry of the Environment, we can really make Trinidad a model destination for conservation and ecotourism.
Now, I know, Mr. Peters, your Grande Riviere and also Matura has been working with UWI in terms of scientific study.
Yes.
From the observation and from the scientific reports that you have done over the course of the years, how often does the beach degenerate itself?
Its Grande Riviere beach is what is termed a high energy beach, meaning number of waves per minute. It packs sand at a 45-degree angle and it flattens off in an area that we refer to as a berm. The dynamics of the beach is such that in a couple of days' time, the sea will replace the sand that was lost. The sand moves as the season advances from east to west. So that if the river is not running in its direction, the sea will bring back sand and restore the zone in a couple of days' time. The sand that we saw in front of Mount Plaisir was restored there in 2 days' time after the river was closed. That's fresh sand that the river brought back. 2 days ago, there was no sand there. So as the river was closed, the sea brought sand right back to the back. It's going to take a while to bring it back to the height. There's a phenomenon we call ground sea, where you have rough seas where sand is deposited. That happens every so often, usually at high tides. But the beach naturally regenerates itself as long as the river is channeled in the right direction. Okay? You're welcome. Okay.
Well, first thing, I mean, what happened here was terrible, okay? But it was a mix, obviously, of both a natural occurrence and with us attempting to protect homes and businesses on the beachfront. What I'm happy to hear, however, is that the damage that happened was not as bad by any means of what was originally put out in the international media, and therefore we learn from this and we move forward. Trinidad, in particular, Grande Riviere, is a world-renowned nesting site. From the records that we have here, right here at the Visitor Center, we have over 100 different nationalities coming here on a regular basis. So it is quite a remarkable place. And what happened, we will deal with that in a very, very effective way. What I like about Grande Riviere, and I think people need to know, is that Grande Riviere itself is self-sustaining with tourism, with ecotourism, and in particular tourism around the whole issue of the natural habitat of the turtles. Yes, and very, very sustainable. The tourism here is sustainable. It has been so for many, many years. We expect that the beach will regenerate itself in short order, and we look forward to a very, very successful nesting season next year.